didn't see you there. I'm your host, Johnny Appleseed, here to tell you about the father of modern physics, Sir Isaac Newton. First off, we will learn about his childhood. Let's go. Sir Isaac Newton was born in December 25th, 1643 in Woolsthorpe, England. His mother and father were Hanna and Isaac Newton. His father died 3 months before he was born, and his mother left him when he was 3 to go live with his new stepfather, Barnabas Smith. He hated his stepfather and threatened to burn them down multiple times along with their house. However, his mother came back when he was 12, with 3 new children from her previous marriage, along with her dead husband. This later left Newton insecure in life. Newton enrolled in Grantham Grammar School and was very lazy. Overall, Newton did not have a very good childhood. But enough of that! On to his influences, education, and motivations. Let's just get on to the next subject. When Newton was in high school, his mother pulled him out so he could farm. He hated it. He was horrible at it. But his teacher convinced his mother to let him go back. After he got his high school diploma, his uncle convinced his mother to let him go to Cambridge's Trinity College.
Newton's uncle was a role model for him, and he did better in school because of him. During college, he became interested in advanced science. In 1665, he got his bachelor's degree and continued to study at the college. However, in 1666, an outbreak of plague caused the college to shut down for a year. During this time, he returned home and made some of his greatest discoveries. Now, we will talk about his discoveries and later life. Newton made his greatest discoveries in an 18-month period. He discovered the spectrum of light through a prism experiment, calculus, and researched the motion of the planets.
Action.
The laws of motion are 1, that...
and discovered gravity through an apple. One day, Newton was sitting under a tree when an apple fell on his head. This got him thinking about what pulled the apple to the ground, which is how he discovered gravity. Okay, he actually saw the apple fall from the window, but you get the idea. In 1687, Newton published Principia, which had his laws of motion and the universal law of gravity in it.
Newton also had many other accomplishments in life. In 1703, he was elected president of the Royal Society, a group of scientists. In 1695, he was elected warden of the Mint. He actually did such a good job that he was knighted by Queen Anne in 1705. He died in his sleep on March 20th, 1727, for various health reasons. Now let's go on to Newton's laws.
Action.
Here to tell you more about Newton's 3 laws is the renowned scientist, Mrs. Honeycrisp. Thank you for coming, Miss Honeycrisp.
It's Honeycrisp.
No one cares. Tell them about the laws.
You really should care more about Newton. He is such an interesting scientist and very accomplished. Stupid host. It's Honeycrisp, not Honeycrisp. Can't anybody get that one straight? I mean, it's really easy. Anyways, Newton's first law of motion states that an object in motion will stay in motion, or at rest, unless acted upon by an outside and unbalanced force. Take this host on a scooter, for example.
The host and the scooter have the same velocity, so when the scooter hits the grass, it has a force acting on it which makes it stop. However, the host had no such force acting on him, so he went flying. Here it is in slow motion.
Now we're going to move on to Newton's second law of motion. Newton's second law of motion states that when one or more forces are acted on an object, the total force will be equal to the mass of the object times its acceleration. Now, the total force has to take friction into account, so the total force is the force applied minus the friction equals the total force. Now we're going to do an equation to make everybody a little more familiar with Newton's second law. pushes an apple, the mass is 10 kilograms, it's a big apple, across the floor at 1.5 meters per second squared east. Friction resists at 20 newtons west. What force did the child exert? Now remember our equation, which is total force equals mass times acceleration. Now we just plug in the numbers. So the mass is 10 kilograms, the acceleration is 1.5 meters per second squared, and that is equal to 15 newtons, which is the total force. Now remember, total force takes friction and the force that is used into account. So we have Fa, which is what we're trying to find. We're trying to find what force the child used, minus the friction is equal to the total force. Now, we don't know what Fa is, so we don't have anything to plug in there. But we do know what the friction is. It's 20 newtons. So we plug that in, and we also know what the total force is, 15 newtons. From here, it turns into an algebra equation, where you add 20 newtons to both sides, and here it cancels out. But here, you get 15 newtons plus 20 newtons is equal to 35 newtons east. And that is our Fa, or the force the child exerted. This is an example of Newton's second law of motion and how it would be used. Newton's third law states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Take this host jumping on a trampoline, for example.
He exerts a force on the trampoline, and then the trampoline exerts the same force back at him, which causes him to fly in the air. This is actually a lot like two brothers fighting. When one hits the other, they will hit back, which is like Newton's third law.
That's what I thought. Ah!
That was a great explanation, Hooney Crisp. Now get out. On to Newton's fates.
But I have to tell
No
you
one
about
cares, Hooney Crisp.
It's Honey Crisp!
Now that my wrist is sprained, we can go on to Newton's fates. Newton had a rather unconventional faith. He went to Trinity School but did not believe in the Trinity. He believed only God should be worshipped and not Jesus or the Holy Spirit. Newton hid his religion well from the scientific community so he would not be judged, even though he wrote more on the Bible than on science. Overall, he was a very devoted Christian. Overall, Newton had many discoveries and was a very successful scientist. Well, that's all for today. Maybe next time I'll work with some less touchy actors.
Who you calling touchy?
Hello?